And welcome inside a special impromptu edition here of the OH.Report video podcast, because guess what? March Madness is here, baby. That's right. It's the first official week of what I consider to be maybe the best sports month of the year. So let me know in the comment section how you feel about that. What actually is the best sports month? I was born in March, as was my co-host here tonight, plus the March Madness. NBA basketball starting to heat up, and for some teams, and actually really only one right now in the association, that means that you're punching your ticket into the playoffs. How about those Cavaliers? A quick round of applause for them getting win number 50 yesterday at home. I was there at the game, almost walked out at the end of the third quarter when we could not hit the broadside of a barn, but I'm glad I stayed and we got that overtime victory over Portland. Now 6-0 when I'm in attendance up there at Rocket Arena this year. My co-host tonight, Mr. Travis Brardy, I invited him to come yesterday, but I got to applaud you. You had date day and you were you were making a home-cooked meal for your lady friend, huh?
Chicken spaghetti.
How'd that turn out?
It was delicious. The spaghetti was a little bit soft, but other than that, it still tasted
I hear
delicious.
Al dente is kind of like the way that everyone's going these years, like a little bit crispy to it. I don't know. I always thought you were supposed to cook the noodles all the way through, but my wife, she likes to watch Today Show and stuff sometimes in the mornings, and they're talking about the al dente and making it a little bit crispier.
Nah, I like the soft, regular noodles. It's what real Italians like.
Yeah, you know. Especially at our age, like who knows how much traction we still have left on these teeth. So.
This is true. This is very true.
Yeah.
That's why we got like birthday cupcakes and stuff too, because not only are we having birthdays this month, but something else is too.
That's right. OH.Report just celebrated our 7th year of existence.
I can't believe that.
We were so busy that I kind of forgot about it. I'm glad that Jory Hollenbeck, our VP around here, she reminded me, and that's why we do have all these fancy cupcakes with some dinosaurs on top. And we've always said, and it will happen one day, if we are to put together our own like intramural team or maybe over 40 league, I'm about to join that club.
We tried a dodgeball team.
That
didn't go well.
No, yeah, dodgeball's not our thing, but we want to be the dinosaurs, and then all of our nicknames will be different varieties of these creatures. So thanks to Jory for getting these together for us, and thanks to you, the fans, for sticking with us for all these years. We're going to take a trip down memory lane a little bit later in the show and talk about really how OH.Report got started and founded and how we've gotten to where we are today, where we are one of the bigger sports media companies in the entire state that does high school prep stuff. So really cool, and wouldn't do it if people weren't watching. So I'm so thankful, so appreciative that there's been a number of folks out there that they do really rely on us week in, week out to bring them not just coverage, but Live and free.
Live and free. Maybe I should break out story time of how I first became an OH reporter. You remember that July day? We'll have story time later. But,
we'll get into all that coming up, but on tonight's show, state wrestling, it's going to go down this weekend in Columbus. We're going to let you know how we're going to be covering all the action. We've got a preview coming up and then a post show as well, all coming up on the show we call The Takedown with Zach Truax. So that's going to be on Thursday, and then we'll let you know about the follow-up show with all the winners. And we could have some state champions coming out of our own backyard. We've got a lot of kids participating at state. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later. Boys basketball, they're in the regionals now, so we're going to tell you who was lost along the tournament trail. Sometimes it's kind of like the Oregon Trail if you played that growing up. Some teams got to get that dysentery or their ox has a broken leg and they just can't make it all the way into the Sweet 16. But we've got plenty of other teams that are still participating, and they're going to get their chance at another bite at the apple to move on to the Elite Eight, and who knows, maybe even into, I would say Dayton, but it's not all Dayton in the Final Four anymore. It's a whole mixture of where teams are going to be playing, and then the 7 divisions all come together for that one big day.
Oh yeah, it's still tournament time. Teams have to lose. Some teams, sad face, and we'll get through them.
We don't have to talk about it right now. We'll get there.
I don't know if I like this Final Four state championship because you get a week. I mean, this gives some of these lower seeded teams longer of a chance to maybe pull an upset. That's maybe the one thing I see positive out of it. But other than that, it just takes away. Like, that's a whole 3-4 day weekend that you spend down in Dayton, and now it's just you drive down there, you play your game, and you probably leave. It's just dulled down. I don't like it. We haven't even got to it yet.
I was going to say,
but still, I don't like it.
Shouldn't we go through the process first?
Yeah.
What the Sixers always tell us, trust the process, but look at where they're at right now, a state of disarray. So I don't know, maybe OHSAA hey, might want to take a page out of their book and see where it's gotten Philadelphia. But let's begin tonight with the girls basketball because they are the ones that are at state right now, and we'll see how we like it kind of towards the end, and certainly for a couple of teams that are still dancing, not necessarily in their Cinderella shoes, but teams that were expected to make runs there. We'll talk about them here in just a second, but let's kick off our conversation here with arguably, I think, the best season in Clear Fork girls basketball history under Coach Scott Sellers, now in his 5th season, and just a really interesting team to watch. They did something that no other team that I've covered all year and really over the last couple of years did, and that is just run and gun for about 90 seconds and then a full rotation, 3-4 new fresh bodies coming in, and they put up a hell of a fight against the 2-time defending state champions. You've seen it in person.
Yeah, and that 2-time defending state champions in Afrocentric in the Final Four.
They're back.
But Clear Fork, what a ride it was, led by Mel Bluebaugh, who can play every single sport and be an All-Ohioan. And this is what I wanted to highlight in the video. She scored 11 points in the first 2.5 minutes. 11 of the team's 13. They were out and running. They had a lead at the half, but then, Afrocentric just at the end, nipped them a little bit. Couldn't get any shots to fall for the Lady Colts late. But for Miss Bluebaugh, that shot right there tied her with Annika Labaki for the career 3-point mark. She would hit one in the 4th to do that. Well, actually, this shot right here from NBA range, that got Michael Clapper going nuts up in the booth with me for that. But she did pass Annika Labaki by 1 for the all-time 3-point mark in girls history at Clear Fork. Also, the single season scoring mark she broke in this game as well for a team that is just historic. I read a very good article by Jake Furr talking about how people use the word historic nowadays, but this Clear Fork team can be said as historic, and it's not overblowing things. And I agree.
The best team that's ever walked the hallways over there. I think in a lot of metrics in regards, the most wins that they've ever had, the most points, and just the special way that they were able to do it with one of the most special players that they've ever had in Melody Bluebaugh, who set a couple of records in this game. And her growth as an athlete has been really awesome to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Because she, as a freshman, was getting time in all 3 of her varsity sports. She's going to be an All-Ohioan in all 3 when those finally come out here. Did see that the All-MOAC teams came out, and she's a first-teamer. Didn't say who the player of the year was in the league.
Yes.
Oh.
I agree. I'm agreeing with you. It hasn't been out yet, but I would say there should be co-players of the year between her and Eve Schwimley, because without those two players, those teams would not be where they would be right now.
But we just want to take this opportunity and just salute the Lady Colts, Scott Sellers, and all the members of the team. Probably the best news that Scott's going to hear is that they're only really losing two really valuable players. She and Lillian Weichel. We talked a lot about blue ball.
And I keep hearing from fans down in the Valley that this 8th grade class
loaded,
is really good, and they have a post player that's already like shooting up there as an 8th grader. So we talked about this on the broadcast too, that it's not just one of those, we made it here, now it's going to take a few years for us to get back. It's just, I think this is the sustained mark now for Clear Fork, being competitive. Might not be regionals every year, things like that, but this is going to be a competitive team from here for the next at least few years. When we started, OH.Report, it's our birthday today, but when we started doing live streams, we caught on with Scott Sellers and the Lady Colts when they were 4 or 5 wins.
Yep.
But he kept telling us, just give us a year or two, we'll really do something. Now, the fruit of her labor.
And actually had a great conversation with Coach Baylog along with Natalie Lance on Saturday just about what it takes to get a program up and running. And it's the youth level, of course. And who does it better in the area than Clear Fork right now? I put them at number 1 with the mini Colts and the activity that they get out of them at halftime. They get to put on a show at every varsity game. They were sitting right next to us during the tournament and just hooping and hollering. They know the girls on a personal level, and it makes you want to grow as a player and get to the point where you're like, hey, I want to be like Mel Bluebaugh one day. And I think they've done an exceptional job at setting the standard over there. So I think that while this is certainly the best season that they've had in program history, sky's the limit for them moving forward.
It's the blueprint. It should be the blueprint that teams around the area and around the state should use. You build through your youth program. It's kind of like what they do in pro sports, like Major League Baseball. You build through your minor league program. The NBA, you build through the G League and the draft. You got to build through your youth program to sustain it. Look what Marion Local does for football.
Yeah.
They play soccer until 7th, 8th grade. Then everybody gets playing time, the same amount of playing time in 7th, 8th, freshman, JV. But look what it's done for the varsity team.
Yeah, it's been really cool. So congrats to the Lady Colts on a season well done, making it to the Sweet 16 for the first time in nearly 4 decades. Pretty fantastic stuff. But a team that had never, ever been to a Final Four until they're about to coming up here on Sunday. How about the Big Walnut Golden Eagles, led by their outstanding sophomore, that young lady, Willin and Dylan in the lane right there, Sydney Mobley, a 25-point double-double to help knock off not just an arch nemesis, but a team that beat them twice during the regular season, an OCC rival in Westerville South, and things got tight at the end, and I thought it was so refreshing to see that a little bit of a younger roster in the Lady Eagles. They didn't lay down. They were up for the challenge. Sydney Mobley had back-to-back buckets when I was watching late in that 4th quarter to kind of put this thing away, and along with Sydney Largent, who's also in her class, playing for her mother, who she had an outstanding career, but she never got to do what these ladies are doing right now. Regional champs for the first time ever down there in Sunbury, and they've been playing basketball for a mighty long time.
Actually, watch this clip right here. Watch Coach Largent. She's standing up next to the table after this shot is hit.
Yeah. Hang time too, Coach.
And also, once they went right after the buzzer sounded, she sprinted out. She was like a player. I love that, and a coaching staff just going off like that. I mean, hey, you won a regional championship. You're going to the Final Four. I mean, some coaches, they just keep it calm and stuff, but why not go nuts? That's just the vibe of this team. Like, even though they're young, they have one of the best players in the state, and she's only a sophomore. You and I said it. One of these clips, she took it from the free throw line on the other end, went with no look pass inside the lane. She has what it takes to go to the next level, and then possibly the next level after that if she continues to build her game. She's only a sophomore.
Yeah, Sid Mobley, it's going to be cool to see who she ends up electing to sign with, because I'm not sure if you follow her on Twitter, but she's been offered by everyone.
I do know a couple names. I've been talking to
Do you
her
have a
after
hunch?
the Joe show. I don't know if I'm allowed to say though.
All right. Well, we won't break some news here, but you can tell me off air.
But they're all. I will say there's a lot of teams in there. I heard like West Virginia,
Oh,
Coach
of
Kellogg.
course.
But
He
also,
had to bring
yeah,
up-
I had to say.
come on.
I have
She
not
ain't
been on the
going there,
podcast
dog.
forever.
Okay.
So I had to say They're the 18th ranked team in the country too. But a former friend of ours up at Michigan State is
right.
on the list as well.
Well, she's been offered by
everybody.
Ohio State,
Oh,
and
yeah,
Tennessee, the who's who of programs right now in girls basketball.
And it's not one of those things where, okay, you can see their ability and sometimes they don't pan out. Like, everybody should offer her now because she will be.
You see
one
what
of the
Big
best
Bro's
players.
doing? He's kind of making a name for himself out there, right?
A little bit. A little bit, right?
I think she's got the pedigree
Yeah.
and certainly the genetics. All right, so that's in Division 2 for Big Walnut. Let's take a look at the brackets for all the divisions. We'll begin with the biggest schools, though, in Division 1. Since it's down to the Final Four, we can show you guys every single team that has made it. We'll flip through these pretty quick and just let you see who is still participating in not just Dayton, but looking for an opportunity to make it down to Dayton. And when they do get there, you and I are going to be there. I booked our hotel yesterday. A little behind the 8 ball here, so we didn't get that top shelf service. We're not going to be staying with Joe Baylog across the street, but it's better than last year.
It's not going to be the halfway house we stayed at,
Oh my
would it?
gosh.
Oh my goodness.
That's a story for another day.
That's another story time for another day. But oh my, that was, oh boy. And for boys, I was sick too, so my snoring, that was something that I apologize
Luckily,
still for,
when you're
but,
working like 14-hour
Yeah.
days nonstop, I was able to catch some shut-eye
Yeah,
while
we
you
were-
were over there, like
Oh, that was
calling for
bad.
the Angels and
That was-
hoping they heard you way out there.
That was a sickness that did not get out of my body for like a month and a half. That was terrible. But glad that we're at a little bit of a better venue this time than.
Yeah, we're saying that same location was open, but I was like, you know what?
Maybe
Better not this year. So we're staying a little north of the city, and it'll be worth it for that drive.
Yeah. Division 1. I will have to. My girlfriend's squad lost in a regional championship. Jackson 2, Magnificat. We've covered Magnificat in our 7 years
Yeah,
of the
we
OH
worked
Report.
with Mags back in 2020 during the COVID year for some soccer and basketball.
Yeah, that venue up in Cleveland where they played soccer was. Division 1, the regional. Yes, Region 1. Regional state. Where, the 4 teams in the Final Four, Magnificat, Pickerington Central, Springboro, and Cincinnati Preston, and our buddy Joe Roberts.
Oh, shout out.
Yeah, are in the Final Four. But the top one, Magnificat and Pickerington Central, going to be played right down the street.
Yeah, that's cool. That's going to be going down, I believe, Sunday, right, at Pete Henry Gymnasium in Mansfield. So we're probably going to head over there. I'll probably check that one out and go make a highlight of that game just to see what it looks like at the Division I level. It really is a bit of a difference, even with the D2 girls that we're seeing.
Yeah.
Those bigger schools, obviously, they've got a much larger pool to choose from, and they got some kids that can really go.
Oh, yeah, the biggest schools, what Coach Baylog said, the biggest 60 schools make up Division 1 or 64. Then the next 64 go in Division 2. So these are schools that have a lot of players to pick from. So, the best of the best in the top 64 schools in the state. But also with the ranking, Magnificat, according to Max Preps, this was before the regional round.
Yeah.
Because, now they're still being updated if you win and whatnot. But Magnificat 2, Pickerington Central 7, and then Springboro 5 versus the 11-seeded Princeton Vikings. So, that should be some high-octane basketball played at Pete Henry, at least for the top one between Magnificat and Pickerington Central.
All right, let's take a look at Division 2 now, where our Lady Eagles of Big Walnut are participating, but not only are they still playing, they got to play the number 1 team in the state. So this is a great opportunity for Sid Mobley, Largent, those girls to really show that they've got what it takes. If they win this one, probably be a favorite to win in the final, even though 4 of the top 8 schools still dancing in the tourney.
Yeah, here's some scores for you from Winton Woods. Their regional semifinal against St. Ursula, they gave up 20 points. In the regional championship against Toledo Start, they gave up 16 points.
Yeah.
So they have a very good defense, but they still got to face this young running gun Big Walnut squad that, even before the season started, people thought this would be a team that would at least make a Final Four. So they got what it takes. And then on the other side, Anthony Wayne and Olmsted Falls. All these 4 teams pretty much took care of business in the regional as well. Should be there.
Yeah, I don't want to misspeak, but I feel like Olmsted Falls, defending state champs, at least got to the championship game last year. I remember covering them.
Yes. Yeah, there was so many games that we covered that I don't remember. But
There was a lot.
I can pull that up. But yeah, I think Olmsted Falls was one of the final teams to play for a state championship.
So that's your final 4 here for Division 2. Flip the script. Let's see who still got an opportunity to win a state championship in Division 3.
And that was a regional that had Ashland, who fell to a team that is in the Final Four. It's Toledo Notre Dame Academy. Got beat up pretty bad, but Toledo Notre Dame, one of the best teams in the state of Ohio, and they will be taking on Purcell Marion and D. Alexander. That's going to be a big matchup wherever those two are playing. And then at the top, number 1 Brush taking on Avon Lake. And again, all 4 teams. Brush knocked off Hoban by 5, but other than that, a 20-point victory for Notre Dame Academy, a 14-point victory for Avon Lake over St. V, and then Purcell Marion putting up 76 over Baden, 76-46. So that's probably going to be the marquee game of the semifinals, that Notre Dame Academy Purcell Marion matchup, because we've seen what Dee Alexander has been able to do the last couple of years.
She's super impressive. It's impossible to watch her play and not feel like she's a future WNBA type of player. She looks like one of the fellas when she's out there balling. So yeah, Purcell Marion, probably, even though they're the 10 seed, they are the favorite to win again, get to the state championship and cut down the nets.
And also, looking back, Olmsted Falls beat Springboro 52-45 last year in the D1 title game.
Hey, my brain's not totally broke.
No.
And then Marion, they're the defending D2 champions. It's hard to keep up now that we've added twice as many.
Yeah, they're the D2. They completely steamrolled Shaker Heights Laurel 79-52.
That's right. All right, let's see who's still dancing in Division 4. Who made it out of their regions? How about Bellevue? And talking to Coach Natalie Lance of Shelby on Saturday, you can tell that it's still very much at the forefront of her mind. They felt like whoever won that matchup for the district championship, them or Bellevue, would have a great shot at the Final Four. Look at how badly they've been taking care of business so far. Back-to-back wins, but in the championship, a 20-point shellacking over Warrensville Heights. So Bellevue, the number 1 team in the state, never been to a state Final Four. Coach Santoros had a whole lot of success over there, but that's hanging up district banners. They've got a lot of them. This is their first time breaking through and getting to that Final Four. Yeah,
they have what it takes. And like we said, that Shelby game pretty much determined who's going to win that regional as well. However, Lutheran East did give Bellevue a test. They hit a 3 late and then a couple free throws to win that one 51-46. But we had the feeling that Shelby-Bellevue winner was going to make it to the Final Four. And now Bellevue taking on 8th-seeded Laurel, while on the other side, number 2. We may see a number 1, number 2 matchup. However, Fairfield Union, the 2 seeds, got to play Archbishop Alter, who is a perennial power in the state of Ohio.
So yeah, might see chalk there, and then that Laurel team that you said got smacked around a little bit in the Division II championship game last year. Well, they're probably satisfied that they don't have to go through Purcell Marion this season. All right, Division 5, let's see who the Final 4 remaining teams are in the state of Ohio, looking to take a bite of that whole enchilada. Afrocentric, don't let the unranked fool you. They're 2-time defending state champions. They're Division 4, but they play a whole lot of D1 and D2 teams throughout the course of the regular season. And a lot of talent still remaining, including Norway. How about a WCAL squad emerging again and getting into the state Final 4? They'll have to go head-to-head, though, with those Nubians for a chance to take on either Portsmouth or Fairland.
At Mansfield Senior. It's one of the 3 games at Mansfield Senior. It says unranked. Now, Max Preps has everybody ranked 1 to whatever it is. I put unranked if you're not in the top 25. Because I believe you should still, if you're ranked, you're in the top 25. If you're not, I'm not putting your ranking. That's just how it should go. So, Afrocentric, I believe, was 27th or 28th, but we know who they are. Taking on Norwayne, that they beat Chippewa in a rematch of pretty much the conference championship, them and Smithville also. But 42-38 in the regional semi, beat Canton South by 5 points, and now they get Afrocentric, which, I mean, a bucket goes the other way. That could be the Clear Fork Lady Colts.
Sure.
But Afrocentric, yeah, they're a team that they've been there before. They know what to do. And at Pete Henry Gymnasium, that should be a very good game. And on the other side, number 1 versus number 3. That's going to be a battle as well to see who goes to Dayton.
I'll tell you, though, Afrocentric, they're a much scarier-looking team after they just knock off Ottawa Glandorf. Talking to some of our friends in the coaching circle, they felt like that they were a big favorite this year. People were like, okay, the Titans are going to get their revenge this season. They weren't even competitive in that game.
Yeah.
Towards the end, Afrocentric built a big lead and was able to get there into the Final Four. So that's going to be an interesting state semifinal to keep an eye on. All right, just 2 more divisions to go. Division 6. Mogador is there. They're going to have to take on the number 1 seed in Waterford, who obviously got to the state finals
That's actually Division
last year.
7. That's Division 7, actually.
Well, that was the little guys.
I apologize to Adam Thompson in our VMix thing. Actually, 6 and 7 got switched, so we'll show 7 first, and then the last tab, Adam, is Division 6. Well, there we go. Now we have Division 6. But that's my fault. My apologies, boss. That was on me. But the Division 6 Final Four, Rootstown, Fort Fry, Columbus Grove, and Minster. We get a 1-2 matchup for a state semifinal in Rootstown and Fort Fry out of the OVAC. And Columbus Grove, who handled Margaretta in a regional semifinal, will take on Minster.
4 really good teams when you're talking about out of the top 10 teams in the state. You still got several of them competing. So it's going to be fun to see who's able to make it out of there. Mogador and Waterford. Battle of the Cats, too.
Yes.
So which Wildcat will emerge?
Wildcat.
There will be a Wildcat in the state championship game. And now let's look at Division 7, because I thought that was a pretty interesting Final Four that they had shaken out there.
Yeah. This is Division 7. You were talking about the Wildcats for Division 7. Yeah. Wildcats versus Wildcats, and then Ottoville and Fort Loramie. Fort Loramie, the state champs from last year.
That's right.
Taking on Ottoville. Well, the 3 teams. We've seen Ottoville and Waterford because those 2 teams have knocked out Buckeye Central and Loudonville the last couple of years.
Right.
Waterford ended up winning the state championship 2 seasons ago. So you have 1, 2, and 3, and then 14th seeded Mogador, who knocked off Danbury, who came out of our Northwest District. The kind of like a St. Paul situation where all they had to do was not trip over themselves in a district to make it, but that's what they were able to do, and they ended up finishing as regional runners-up. But yeah, that's this is probably one of the most competitive of the 7 divisions, with the top 3 teams still being alive.
So there you have it, folks. That's everybody that still has an opportunity to win a state championship, and they will crown not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 state champions this year. And then after this experiment, if you will, I have not talked to a coach yet, Travis, that is cool with the 7 divisions. Not one, period. So I'm really curious. We've got the head of the Coaches Association in our building every single week. There will be discussions this offseason about the fact that they just were not enjoying the watered-down district championship. Some teams did not even cut down nets for district titles this year because it just didn't feel like they earned anything that was that valuable. So will we get less divisions next year? Will they change it? We haven't done the Final Four yet, so we're not going to pass judgment. However, as Travis already alluded to, the fact that you don't get the semifinals and then the finals in one big long weekend all in one venue where you just get a ton of basketball junkies down there, plus of course the supporting fan bases, it just doesn't seem like it's quite as special this year already.
Yeah,
I'll just leave it there.
Even do something like volleyball. We went down for volleyball, and they played the semifinals at some of the. I mean, some of those high school venues are big enough. I mean, Kettering Fairmont, when East Knox a few years ago played in a regional, that's an arena setting. Like, you play some of those smaller schools there, and then you have Wright State, and you have the arena for some of the bigger schools to play your semifinals. I just think what they did with the blueprint of volleyball, I think, can be used to at least keep it a week long. Now, we had a media luncheon with Tim Street of the OHSA, and something like for softball, Firestone Stadium said you get the whole week. Yes. So not only
That's what we need.
Yeah. Not only do we have 3 or 4 days of great softball, we get a whole week of it now. And then up in Canton as well for baseball, they said they got Thurman Munson Stadium as well as Canal Park. So again, it's going to be a whole week worth. I mean, you can spread this out. It's just, can you get the venues in one place? Can you get a couple of those high schools that are bigger? Still do that, because that's the whole cool thing about the Final Four too. Winning a regional, you get to go at least play one game, but a chance for 2 in a state championship. Now that's just, okay, we won one game, we're in the Final Four, cool, but we're going to play in Mansfield instead of Dayton. It's just, I don't know.
As a young lad that did not grow up in Ohio but was in Colorado, where we were 1 win away 2 times of making it to what they call the Great 8, and it was all played at Pepsi Center back then. It's now Ball Arena, where the Denver Nuggets play. That was unbelievably exciting to get to go play where an NBA team resides. And University of Dayton is not that, but it's still a crazy awesome venue. So I do think that if you were to put it up to the coaches and the players, they would much rather have the opportunity in the Final Four to be able to compete at one of those instead of, and no offense to, I'm seeing here, thanks Matt for letting me know the Bellevue game's going to be at Elyria Catholic. It's at a high school.
Yeah.
So, same with Mansfield Senior. They're cool venues.
Yeah.
Not a college venue, not an NBA venue.
You have the Grade 8 for back in West Virginia. We had 3 divisions, 8 teams from 8 divisions. That's number 2 that I said West Virginia had. I'm just to let you know, too. You have the ticker. Tally it right there. Tally it. But you win your regional, you go to the state tournament, which is 8. So it starts on Wednesday and goes till Saturday. And you play, the 3 divisions are spread out, but it was a whole thing where you went down there and you had a chance to play 3 games down at the Charleston Civic Center. And that was just an overall cool thing. The year after I graduated, they went to the state championship, and I went down, and it's a mini vacation for some people.
Yeah.
And back in the days when it was at St. John Arena, that was the thing to do, especially, for spring break or whatever. It was a trip. It was a family outing. But now it's just one game.
It's just different. So that's the ladies. They've got their due. The Final Four. We showed you every single team that's still competing. For the fellas, let's tell you about, we're going to start with some of the bigger schools that we covered here during the district week. We'll show you some of the teams that were kind of left behind, that maybe didn't live up to expectations and get to a regional, and then tell you about the teams that we're still going to be covering this week all around the area on the OH Report. So let's begin with the Division III Willard District and Mansfield Senior, who got off to an unbelievable start. They were the number 2 seed, and they were a favorite against Sandusky in this game, and they played like it early on in the contest. And their young players, I think what's so exciting for the TY Tigers is they're going to lose not necessarily a generational player in Kyvie Roan, but Marquise Sykes said after the game that he's probably a top 10 Tiger ever. They've had some pretty good players there. I don't know if he's that, but he's been really, really good. But you look at the freshman-sophomore combo that they have with Kalen Brooks and then Andrew Brooks. They were the 2 leading scorers on the team. Kalen Brooks has that modern-day swag and plays like a new era type of player. Long threes, not scared to take you off the bounce and pull up from anywhere, no-look passes every which way. So to see them have the fourth quarter that they did in the Blue Streaks, and I said, Jonathan Langdon put us on the spot and said, okay, on the last podcast that we did, make a bold prediction. I said that it would not be the number 1 seed that got out of it. It's because it was Sandusky, who's got some really, really good players, and the Blue Streaks are the team that ended up knocking off Lexington and moving on. But they had a 31-11, what we call an avalanche in the fourth quarter to put the Tigers away. So it was cool to get to see Mansfield Senior in person, a team that we've been keeping an eye on all season, but probably got to be disappointing for Tiger Nation and such a rich history of basketball. So you talk about historic, and you said it's overused. As far as a program is concerned, the 4th winningest team ever in the history of the state. I think you could say that about the Tigers.
Oh, absolutely. And I was sideline camera for both of those district semifinal games, and that was just the feel of that. And I mean, it was at the Haas. That's a venue to play games like that there. The place was packed. Student sections were going back and forth, jawing at each other. The players were pointing at the student sections. But just the run that Sandusky went on in that fourth quarter, 3-and-1s from shots that I thought, how did that even go in?
Because Amir Aaron's a beast.
But that just Yeah, hats off for Mansfield Senior, but just in the end, Sandusky just had that run at the end to pull it off and advance to play Lexington. And, I mean, look at this shot. The step back for Mansfield Senior. That's the future of the Tigers right there, Brian.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Just even though it's a really disappointing finish to the season for the Tigers, they led the entire way up until that fourth quarter, and then all of a sudden Sandusky puts that blitz on them. But then they get to take on the number 1 seed.
Yeah, Lexington Sandusky.
On paper, I was like, I don't like this matchup for Lexington, and that's why I did not think that they would be able to get out of there because of the quickness of the Sandusky guards. And you look at Jason Henlin, who we had Ashland's coach sitting right next to us, John Ellenwood, during that game. He offered him after the game. That's how good he was.
Really?
So maybe a future Eagle there. Both him and Amir Aaron, they're just such a difficult 1-2 combo. And I feel for Lexington a little bit because I liked their game plan, and Mansfield Senior had the same strategy. Sandusky only shoots 22% from three-point range. That's abysmal. That's not going to win you a lot of games, except for if you've got the combo guards that they do, and along with a Kobe Brown and some other guys that can really get involved with the action. But they knocked down 4 of their first 5 threes in the game, and Lexington was like, okay, now we've got to come out on these guys, and that's just a recipe for disaster. So they ended up taking care of Lexington very handily. It was never a game. It didn't feel like at any point Minutemen got within about 8, I think it was, in the third quarter, but Sandusky kept that cushion and ended up knocking them off by 17 points.
Yeah, and you just had that thought that with his name just slipped my mind. Who didn't play in the first game for Lexington?
Braden Fogel?
Braden Fogel. Yes, that guy. That guy is getting offers from multiple sports, and I forget his name. My fault, Braden. But Lexington fans had the thought that with him back in the lineup, it was going to change the complexion of things. It did not. Sandusky just went out and did the same thing they did at Sandusky against Lexington earlier in the year. It was a little bit closer. Like you said, it was at 8 points in the second half, but they just took care of business, and they're back in a regional. And what are your thoughts on them making a run further than that?
I'm having a tough time seeing it because they have to play Lutheran West, who we got to see, obviously, during that holiday invite down in Columbus. And they've got a lot of their players back that were able to blitz them last time. And this is a crazy stat that I did not learn until my good friend Joe Baylog filled me in on the air. Sandusky's cut down the nets. They've got a lot of district championships. They have 0 wins in regionals.
Really?
They are 0 when they get to the regional round, and I cannot picture too many scenarios where they're able to contend with Lutheran West, but that backcourt combo, really, really special, and I'm rooting for them. I'll say this about Sandusky. I've covered them. I've been doing this job since 2008, covering sports around here, and a lot of times that rivalry when they would come down here, or we would have some of our teams go up there like Mansfield and Lexington, I didn't think they had very likable kids, period. I didn't really appreciate their fan bases. This is different. Jason Henlin, Amir, Kobe Brown, those guys were so gracious to talk to us. We haven't covered them all year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They were just excited about the opportunity to get the media coverage. Super polite kids. The fans that talked to us as well. They were all enjoyable. Yeah, they've got some swag and some attitude about them, but that's what makes them Sandusky. That's what makes them the Blue Streaks. So I'm rooting for this team to get to the Elite 8, and if they do, we got to get up there. We got to cover this team and see if they can get to their state Final Four for the first time ever, because I really do feel like this was the most enjoyable group of Sandusky kids that I've had the personal privilege of being able to cover before.
Yeah.
And I'm in your corner, baby, so I'm going to be sending out some good juju up to you at Bowling Green. No doubt.
Toledo. Or
Either
Bowling
way.
Green.
Are they
Bowling Green,
BG?
Toledo.
I think they're BG.
No, it was if Shelby would have won, it would have been Toledo.
Yeah. RIP to the Whippets, too. I don't have them mentioned here today. They did get to a district championship, and they were up 2 and just didn't have the dogs to make it happen at the end. But in Division 4, we do have a district champion in the River Valley Vikings. This team has not been tested in quite some time, and specifically not in the tournament. Their district kind of watered down. Not that great, but they took care of business. That's all you can do is just knock off the teams on your schedule.
Yeah.
And all they've done is do it 16 times in a row, Travis. This team is streaking big time. 50-30, they shellacked Buckeye Valley, a former conference rival of theirs, in the district final. And this was yesterday, too, playing on a Sunday, on the Lord's Day, to get the victory. And I thought the 2 first-team All-Ohioans are all MOAC players, the 2 chases. They were phenomenal. But the way they moved the basketball, I really think that they can contend with anybody in Division 4. They've just got this team chemistry that you can't overlook, because talent is one thing, but a feel for one another on the floor is different, and that's what they have, is just the connectivity. It's like they've got that Wi-Fi. Everybody's locked in.
I still say if they hit one shot last year in the district championship game, we were going to have that Shelby River Valley Part 3 in the state Final Four. We were that close, because I think they would have been the favorite like they are this year in the regional. And if they make a regional final, they would play Maysville, who beat Shelby. Yeah. They would play them in a regional final. But I think River Valley, they have it this year. And that's after graduating one of the best players they've had in the history of River Valley as well, Smith's older brother.
Yep.
Like, it's just... This team is sneaky good. They can do it.
They're not sneaking up on anybody. 16 wins in a row.
Yeah,
I think that, let me say this, I feel like they're probably excited now. We don't know exactly how to say it. So if you phonetically can sound this out for me in the chat section, Uenoto is the next opponent.
Uenoto or Uenoto.
Sounds like a rap song or something. But they've won 8 in a row. They've got 23 wins on the season. They're the Scioto Valley League champions. I do think that River Valley, not that they have been yawning their way through the tournament so far, but they've had big leads immediately, and then they've just kind of walked into victories.
Well, no offense to the southeastern part of the state, too, but it's not the basketball that you see up this way.
Not
Columbus,
normally.
North Central Ohio, the Cleveland, Toledo areas. You will get a couple teams, like girls a few years ago when we covered Napoleon, Vinton County. They played for, the state championship game there. You might see every once in a while a really good team out of that, but it's normally you're going to get the Central, the Eastern District teams go down, play Southeastern District teams, and knock them off. So it's nothing against it, but it's just the play's a little bit more up here than it is down that way.
So we'll see if River Valley's got what it takes to outright MOAC champions. Moving on into the regionals this season. In Division 6, Travis, make sure that you've got your tissues ready, because we got to talk about that Central District in Northmore getting to a district championship game for the 3rd consecutive season, and they get to play one of their longtime arch nemesis rivals with Cardington, who was able to knock them off twice during the regular season, and the Golden Knights had a game plan, baby. They had a lead.
This was the final minutes. Jack Swenger hits it 2 to tie it. They hit the 3, and then with the ball, Jack Swenger took over, and you're thinking, oh, little momentum for Northmore. Takes this all the way in, makes it a 2-point game, timeout. What's going to happen here? And then Cardington with that, they're not used to playing in a district championship game. You're thinking, oh, no. Northmore's got a chance at the win at the buzzer. Could this finally be the year?
For the
Cole
win?
Puffman for the win? Jack Swenger with the rebound. 2.4 seconds left. They missed the second end, and this kind of reminded me of the Duke Butler National Championship game.
I was watching live. I thought that was dropping.
Now, congratulations to Cardington.
Way to go.
Their senior class, they were pretty much built to get to this spot.
8 of them, right?
8 of them, yes. And they have multiples playing in the News Journal All-Star game. If there's, they'd still be playing. It's after the states, but they wanted to get to this moment, and they clutched late. Now they're going into a regional where they play Eastern out of the Southeast District, but then they may take on Monroe Central, who knocked off Highland. Monroe Central, the number 4 team, they're out of the OVAC, a very good squad as well. But with Highland out of that bracket, it's winnable.
It's a
winnable bracket. And Cardington, represent the KMAC. Keep it going. Keep it going. That's all I'm going to say is respect. They've had a scrappy team. We've covered them in the past, and with these players as young players, you see in spurts. But this year they finally put it all together, and they'll take on Eastern down at ODU, which is a cool thing. They don't have to go all the way to Athens like River Valley. They're staying on the same court that they played on, so that might be a bit of an advantage for them as well. But then if they were to get out of that region, they'd probably have to face number 1 Marion Local, who, sometimes their basketball team is just as good as their football team. We saw them knock off Afrocentric in 2017 for a state championship. So they have a team. No, it was Cornerstone Christian, either Cornerstone or Afrocentric, one of the big power schools. But they're not just a football school up there in the MAC.
And real quick, go ahead and bring back up that Division 5 since we were just looking at it. And the Margaretta Polar Bears is going to be playing in our backyard.
Yeah.
And we're looking to cover them coming up here on Wednesday. It's going to be their biggest test of the postseason so
Two
far as
Ohio
well.
Buckets players going against each other, too, which is going to be quite the matchup.
It should be a pretty lit environment there. But a lot of good teams still remaining out there, including the 3-time defending champions in Richmond Heights, the number 1 ranked team in the state for a reason. And they're, I think, close to double-digit losses this year, but my God, that schedule they play.
Oh, yeah. It's
absolutely insane. They did have I'm trying to think of their point guard's name. De'Eric Barber just set the state all-time record for most assists in a career.
Assists, yes.
So I did want to salute him.
Yeah,
I saw that in their last game. That kid's been phenomenal. He's averaged for his career, and he's been a 4-year starter at the varsity level, over 8 assists per game.
That's
crazy. And he's a good scorer this year, too, to go along with kids that are committed to Ohio State and other Division I programs. So I'm curious to see if they're able to run through Division V like we've seen in Division IV the last 3 years. There's been no contest for them. They've knocked off everybody that's come in their path quite easily. So a few bigger schools here, we'll see if they have what it takes to get it done, if the Spartans can get their 4th in a row. All right. Let's talk about Division VI now, the Ontario District Championship. You got to see this one go down live and free on the OH Report if you were watching out there. And
Crawford
how about
and Crestview, yeah.
Colonel Crawford, long winning streak, and they got an opportunity to take on the opponent that they had on opening night, who gave them their only loss so far of the season, the Crestview Cougars. Wasn't much of a game.
No. We were expecting it to be a good game as well. Justice Thompson did what he was supposed to. I think he nearly hit 20 points on the night, but Colonel Crawford came shot out of the cannon, man. They were up 10 just like that. They were hitting every shot in their defense. Man, you talk about Payne DeGray and
John
DeGray and all of the
Braden Holt too.
Braden Holt,
he gets
really
a lot
good.
of the headlines for his offense. He's a pretty smart defensive player.
Yeah. This is a very good defensive team that shut down Crestview. 10 points in the first half. They only gave up 10 points to a Crestview team that couldn't score the basketball, and they just, the second half they were outscored by 4, but it was already over by the half. Adam and I were joking as well. You watch the first half, David Sheldon wasn't screaming as much as he usually does because he didn't need to. Like, they were playing perfect basketball in that first half. Then they let off the gas a little bit and had to get yelled at to wake up. But this team ready to go against Maumee Valley Country Day, who,
they obliterated Mohawk.
Mohawk shot, I think, 8 of 70 from the field. Couldn't hit a shot, too, but they took care of business. And Maumee Valley Country Day, I was talking to Payne DeGray and Braden Holt after the game, and they said, they looked a little bit. They have a 7-foot kid. They have a couple of the kids can hit some shots, but just the way Crawford plays defense, if they can do that tomorrow at Bowling Green, they can play that defense and get balanced scoring like they have done in the district tournament. We may see them once again trying to break through that regional championship round to get to the Final Four for the first time ever.
Yeah, never did it, but almost didn't even get to a district final when we were showing a couple clips there of the Sheldon Bowl, if you will. Western Reserve in that game plan, I actually gave a call to Chris Sheldon, who was pretty fired up at the end of the night, and just left him a voicemail and said, I thought that was one of the best game plans I've seen, period, in a tournament game. Not that Western Reserve's not a pretty good team, but they're not Colonel Crawford, and they led basically the entire game up until about the last 4 or 5 minutes of it, and then Colonel Crawford slightly pulled ahead. That was an amazing game.
That was.
If you didn't get a chance to watch Western Reserve versus Colonel Crawford, I think the district championship a bit of a dud. We were expecting more out of Justice, Tyson Ringler and the gang over there, but man, that was great stuff in that district semifinal game. Let's check out Division 7 now. Let's begin with the Hillsdale Falcons, who are moving on. They're going to be playing for a regional for the first time since they had to go head-to-head with LeBron James back in the early 2000s. So a little bit of a lighter task, I think. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. When you were playing that St. Vincent St. Mary team that's got a whole documentary about them out there, I think the Falcons got to feel pretty good about themselves. And what an unbelievable night for their big man in the middle.
I was about to say, have you ever seen a 26-4 game in a district champion? 26 rebounds.
Crazy.
He was just he was a man amongst boys. He was taller than everybody else too, but it was just nobody would push him around. He stayed in his spot and scored. And I got to shout out Lowen Ferguson as well. The first clip you saw, he with a little sweet kiss off the glass to end the first half, because Heartland Christian, they had a bit of a run towards the end of the half, but then that and Mr. Showtime Hayden McFadden with 2 dunks in the fourth quarter. He did try for a dunk earlier on and kind of did 3 steps before taking up and heard it from the Heartland crowd. And then after made them pay with 2 straight slams. But another team that just so many players can score the ball, pass the ball. In the first half, they dished out, I think, an assist per bucket in the first 5 minutes. They were actually too many passes sometimes out of that. But that's just what this team does. They know anybody on the floor can score at any given time. Anybody can go inside. Even short little Lowen Ferguson can go in there and get a rebound. They're a fired up squad. They're playing together, and that football run is the main contributor of why they're so composed right now. Because most of these guys were on the football team, and they were able to make that state championship game run. And that translates into the basketball court as well, because you're not so mixed in the emotions of the moment because you've been there before.
They've got some toughness about them. I think they're the best athletic team so far when they've been on the floor every night that I've had a chance to see them. So I don't know if they have an abundance of hoopers per se. Brady Critchbaum certainly is one. Coach's kid. You said sweet little Lowen. Like, I know he's small, but he plays big. Everybody else, they're dynamic athletes and they know their role. That's what makes this team really dangerous, is nobody feels like they got to go get theirs. Everybody's eating. There's a feast out there on the table. They're getting their appetizers, their table snacks, and I feel like the Falcons, they're a pretty dangerous team going into this regional round coming up here tomorrow.
But they will have to go up against the all-time leading scorer in the state of Ohio, who just broke it with 56 points. I talk about 26 and 26 in a game, 56 points in a district championship game, as actually all 3 teams in that Northeast District in their 3 district tournaments ran their opponents off the court, in Cornerstone Christian, Warren JFK, and Hillsdale. But Hillsdale, I think it's going to be a tough test, but I think they can go up against a Cornerstone Christian team with the team that they have. And then who knows who they'll play, either Warren JFK, who they want revenge from last year, who knocked them out of the district semifinal, or another team from the OH Report that we saw win a district championship for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, since 1998. That was before I was even in high school, so St. Paul fans have been waiting quite a long time, Travis, to be able to cut down the nets at districts, and they were able to do that at Shelby on Saturday night. It was super cool to be able to see this team. They were the clear favorite, much like River Valley that you saw there, to win their Northwest District. Maybe the worst district in the state.
But they're a good team.
But they're a good team.
Before the illness hit Crestview, they went to Crestview. They were down early. They came back and went on a run at the end of the game to knock them off, to set up what we thought was going to be a winner-take-all in the Firelands Conference at the end of the year. But they played Crestview tough twice, and I think Crestview was healthy in both games. And what they were able to do to them, I mean, this St. Paul team, they're playing great basketball at the right time with a McCall leading the way.
I love that dude. Joe Baylog, Slender Man, winner of the year for just having uncommon size and ability. He had 5 blocks in this district championship game. There's one right there, perfect timing. Double-double as well. He's just got such a smooth skill set, the lefty. He's able to just lure dudes into that right hand when he has it in there, and he always seems to be able to get to his left. He's one of those type of cats. I heard the sideline for St. Mary barking out, don't let him go left, don't let him go left. He kept going left because he just couldn't be slowed down. But now they've got to face those Portage Trail champions in a team that they're in the regionals just about every single year.
Yep.
So for JFK, this is just going to be, it's another year. Hey, let's try to get a step closer. I'm hoping that the moment doesn't feel like you're just excited to be there if you're Norwalk St. Paul coming up tomorrow, because this team's won 14 in a row. They're playing some fantastic basketball. Didn't get tested, though, in the sectional or the district. The number 2 seed was St. Mary Central Catholic, who had lost 7 of 9 games going into the tournament.
Yeah, do we talk about how the districts in Division 7 are, as the kids would say, mid?
Not even mid. I think you say sus.
Sus.
To
sus.
go
Okay,
with
sus.
that one down at Shelby.
Yeah, but, I mean, all they had to do is not trip over themselves and play good basketball. St. Paul, despite that, Very good team. Like I said,
Yeah.
they're the Firelands Conference champs. They knocked off Crestview not once, but twice. They can play, and I think they need a big game from McCall. They need to establish an inside game defensively and offensively, make JFK shoot some of these outside shots, play good defense, and they'll have a chance. I mean, we're rooting for a Hillsdale-St. Paul regional championship game at Barberton on Friday, but they got to take care of business first. And look at this.
Yeah, dude, he's a heck of a player, but they're more than just him. I think that's, they've got Frazee, who I think is a quality player. He's almost double-digit scoring. They've got Freeze as well. Mm-hmm. He's a quality player. I really love Grant Coonley. At the beginning of the year, as a sophomore, he's not what he is now. That kid's super developed. They go about 7 deep, 7 quality players that they can put on the floor. So I definitely give them a shot to try to cut down the not cut down the nets, but at least get to an opportunity to get there, try to win a regional game. I'm looking forward to that, and we will have that game for you live and free tomorrow night.
Both?
We'll have both of them out there at Barberton. So the first game is St. Paul, Warren JFK, and then we'll have the Cornerstone Christian Hillsdale game, and then Colonel Crawford as well. We're going to have that game. That'll have to be an audio cast live, is my understanding, and then we'll have a full video broadcast for you guys that will go down as soon as the game ends. Per some OHSA rules, it gets super confusing this time of year for us, but we just navigate the waters the best that we can. So we'll have that. And then coming up on Wednesday, we'll have a couple of games. Columbus Academy versus Margaretta. That'll be over at Pete Henry Gymnasium. And then Licking Heights versus Big Walnut.
At the Ohio Expo Center.
That's cool.
Back down there. I cannot wait to get on the call with Bryce Coder there, Mr. Big Walnut. Bryce Coder. He'll be play-by-play. I'll be, running the 1s and 2s and adding in some comments every once in a while. But I can't wait to get down. I've heard from stories from Joe Baylog and everybody else that venue, that's special down there for Ohio high school basketball. So I can't wait to get down there on Wednesday.
Long overdue for them to bring some tournament games back there. And then on Thursday, we'll also have River Valley. We're going all the way down to Ohio University, baby. We're going to be in Athens with that coverage for you. So I haven't heard if we can do that one live yet, but we'll be down there, audio cast if not, and then the full broadcast to follow. But Travis, OH.Report, 7 years old now. Like we're starting to get into the point where, what are we? We're like a second grader in terms of our age. So, so we've been around. You can't even hold back. He's getting a piece of that cupcake right now, licking that extra frosting.
I haven't eaten since lunch, so I'm gonna get into this cupcake.
You know how we celebrated? Our birthday was on Saturday. By doing what we do best: bring live and free hoops and whatever sport it is to the people out there.
Hillsdale District Championship.
Watch Hillsdale and St. Paul cut down the nets for the first time in a very long time. I can promise you that that's something that happens just about every other day right there. A little cupcake to the face for Travis Berardi. But even though we are the home of Live and Free now, it didn't always start that way.
No, it did not.
So a quick background story, and then we'll get into, I don't even know how long this video is that Jory has prepared for us, but I think it's got a little bit of length to it, just to show you throughout, only 10 minutes, so not too bad. So I get asked fairly frequently, how did you come up with OH.Report? Where did this come from? Travis and I used to work together at a news organization, so I did have a background as a reporter and a sports anchor, and then I hosted a show for about 7 years here in the local area.
Fun show. I hosted while you were getting married one time. It was good.
The Sports Buzz, yeah. Was actually just flipping back through some memories of that. Somebody requested a video from me, and I did still have it on my personal YouTube channel.
We got to talk to some cool. We interviewed Rajay Davis, who was nearly Mr. Hero in the World Series, about his
grooming tips with Rajay Davis.
I got to interview the hero from the ALCS. Who just came off the bench out of the bullpen and won a game.
Getting married.
He was getting married, and I was having a ceremony as well where I got tips on what I should have for our wedding registry and things like that. We had some cool stuff back then that translated into a better experience here, though, I would say.
Yeah, so just always kind of thought that we could do a little bit more, a little bit different. And so OH Report was really just kind of founded on me wanting to make commercials on the side. I started a BS Media Productions page and then just decided, you know what, I'm jumping 2 feet into this thing. And when we got started, it was highlights only. It was just yours truly going out there pretending that we are a news organization.
Do you remember your first highlight?
Oh, I do. So the very first game that I ever did, it was Ashland versus Massillon, a regional semifinal football game, and got a lot of traction. Posted it on a page that had 37 followers at the time, but we got a couple thousand views on it. The very next week, I did the Madison Lady Rams with a freshman named Taylor Huff, and they were in the state Final Four, got locker room access, the whole 9 yards. That's what I thought it was going to be forever, is that we were just going to give you a little bit of a unique look. But let's go ahead and spin that video, because after we did about 6 months worth, I was like, we got to find a place to put all these videos. I mean, I've made about 40 of them. BS Media Productions just doesn't really do it for sports. We need something, so we started the OH Report, and here we are 7 years later celebrating, and we hope at least 7 more. So the first video that you're going to see, the tournament takeover, baby.
I remember this.
So March 1st is our specific birthday back in 2018 when we launched the OH Report brand, the website, all in one day. And I sent 2 of my friends and myself to gyms all around the area leading up to this. How about a regional championship game? Cade Stover and the boys looking to upset the #1 team in the state, undefeated Wauseon. Your boy down there on the sideline getting all these magical shots.
I was at that game.
And it was a magical game by the end of the night, because Mr. Lexington himself, now a Houston Texan, Cade Stover, threw the city on his back. He took over, and they would upset the Skins in front of a jam-packed house there at Bowling Green. Amazing to be able to watch that. So Cade Stover really did help make us famous, and I got to tip my cap as well to Ben Vore, the entire team.
That Ontario Clear Fork game, I almost died. I almost had a foul ball hit right at my head. I ducked. There is still a dent in the Heisey Park door next to one of the dugouts. The Lady Falcons. We know about the Lady Falcons here on the OH Report, but back then, winning their first state championship in a few years.
Yeah, Sydney Long helping lead that team.
Look at
so
this
we
young
got him with
buck.
the Falcons. My hair way darker back then, and this is my basement. Anybody who's ever been to the crib knows that we converted my entire basement into a home studio. So thank you, Jory, my wife, for allowing me to do that. And we used to host the show there this Saturday, Pigskin, at my house. It was 1,000,000 degrees. Shout out Effie James for being with me for the first couple of years. It was really amazing.
Could just celebrate a birthday himself.
Yeah, he did. Oh, shout out Effie for getting older just like us out here. But this guy, I gotta say, the 2 people that were the foundations of what made OH Report what it is today. We also got to follow the Whippets in football first season, but it wasn't OH Report yet. It was still BS Media Productions. But Shelby getting to the state Final Four in football, and then Cade Stover and my dear friend Taylor Huff having the careers that they did, it gave us kind of an instant foothold within the area. Him winning Mr. Football, I covered, I think, 7 Lexington games that year. I was a Cade Stover fan, baby, and why not? He was our first ever hardwood hero as well. So we tried to do some unique things, Travis, where it wasn't just a highlight. I did a lot of voiceover work, and we tried to make it something that nobody in the area had ever done before, and for the entire state, for that matter. I just tried to be outside of the box, but we needed some primetime players to help make it happen. And oh, by the way, the Hillsdale Falcons baseball team also had a squad that could do it.
Yeah, they went to the state championship game, lost to Toronto in the title game. But the Falcons, you could say the Falcons were one of your starts. Cade Stover, also Taylor Huff, Brendan Armstrong. But yeah, how many area entities focused on baseball and softball like we do too, and how you started on them?
Not many. Matter of fact, I wasn't doing a lot of that when I was in the local news. We just weren't doing a ton of spring sports.
Weren't told to.
Hey,
yeah.
I think I did more track and field back then than I did baseball and softball. But having these outstanding athletes like Ben Vore, the Division II Player of the Year, right in our own backyard.
Yeah.
But this was kind of the creme de la creme. Lucas and Mansfield Sr. both getting to a state championship game. Nobody in Richland County history had ever done that on the football field, and then two teams at the same time. And we were the only entity that covered every single Mansfield Sr. game that year.
Yep.
And I'm proud to say that the Lucas Cubs as well, we were at almost all of them. So we slowly were just kind of picking up a few extra people. I had Garrett and Storm that I added for this season.
Yep.
Out on the sideline, and we were just doing these highlights, man, capturing some really awesome moments. Simon Blair, I remember this kid. He ended up being the district player of the year. He was super impressive with South Central. When they broke through, they went to a regional for the first time in many, many years under Simon Blair. But just little videos like this, people weren't doing it around here. Now it's commonplace with all the social media, but I think that we really helped set a standard with some of our creativity and focusing more on the athletes than we were the teams.
This game I remember well.
So you talked about they got to go head to head. Hillsdale does with all-time leading scorer in the state.
Yep.
McDonald at the time had a kid who was scoring over 40 points per game, and that was the big task. How do you shut him down if you're Lucas? They did it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You had the football team that did something, but yeah, like Hillsdale, it transfers to the basketball court as well, and a closely defended three-pointer that was off the mark. There was some controversy about was it a foul or not, but no, Lucas would end up going to the regional championship game, and then this Upper Sandusky team, you remember the storylines before that, their best player got suspended, kicked off the team before the tournament run. You thought that was it. Then another bit of controversy. The layup against Mansfield Senior, was it at the buzzer? Was it after the buzzer? But it sent them to a district final where that shot from Brett Montgomery, older brother of a Montgomery that plays now, gave them the championship, but they weren't able to play because of...
Oh, the coronavirus. Of course, it infected the entire country, and we had no sports to cover, Travis. So what did we do? Your boy threw on a suit, and I started talking news for a little while. Brought in Donnie Bryan, a respected candidate that ran for mayor back in 2020. And we tried to just do everything we could to still shine light on sports, even though it didn't exist. And I remember this was very cool. We just put out a post on our social media. We said, hey, we know that you don't have football right now. Send us a picture if you have one of your stadium. And I think we got like 70 schools to send in a photo. It was pretty neat.
And this is where I come in. So I was at said entity with Brian before. Brian left before me. COVID hit. Gets laid off, so I'm on the golf course in July. I get a call from the sports director over there. Sir, we're not bringing you back. So what do I immediately do? I finished my round. I went to the place, picked up my stuff, went to the corner store, picked up some beverages, and went straight to your house, knocked on the door, and said, I'm in.
And I was like, I don't know what you're in for, buddy, but I like that six-pack in your hand. So I heard him out.
Was live streams.
And here we are now. So what you just saw there, that volleyball game, was the first ever volleyball live stream that we did.
Very first live stream?
Not the very first live stream. We did Clear Fork versus Madison, boys and girls soccer, a doubleheader. And then the next week, first volleyball. And this is our first ever soccer match live stream. So you can see our graphics have gotten a little bit cooler, a bit fancier, obviously a lot more motion. But by the end of the year, we had some pretty cool graphics. But if you win a state championship, you should get a dancing ram, of course, on the billboard.
That's right, the dancing ram.
It's got to pop up here, I think. We got to show it. But Madison making the run, the undefeated season that they had, this too, in our first year of doing live streams, to get to go all the way to the state championship.
There it is. There's the Ram.
Let's go.
But yet, we were also, other than NFHS, the only entity to be able to do this on tape delay too.
You know why? I begged.
You begged?
And begged.
And we covered them.
Begged.
ESPN helped us out too because of Taylor Huff's top 10 play.
What a goal.
What a goal.
So the Lady Rams, if anybody asks me how did OH.Report gain traction, I always name two people. I'll say Cade Stover, Taylor Huff. They really did make us what we are today. Now, granted, we've had many kids come through over the last few years, but because of the reach that we had during that soccer run. Then we had the opportunity when we were doing basketball season, teams that we don't even mess around with started calling us up.
You and I were at
Wildcats
we were at
one.
Pete Henry doing the Bellevue game. Bellevue beat Shelby in one of those Final Fours or district championship games. They played Napoleon, and people were messaging us on the Facebook comments while we were calling the game. How do we get you to continue following Napoleon?
We need you
have
for
to
the
come
Elite
back.
Eight.
So
we need you for the Final Four.
We called the regional championship game where you started She Got It, which I converted to He Got It. And then we followed them all the way to Dayton. That was our first ever state championship in basketball that we covered, was the Final Four and the state championship game. That was quite the run we had that first year.
Absolutely. So we covered not one, not two, but a couple different state champions here. The Cary Blue Devils, our first chance, a team that we covered throughout the season to actually go on and win a football state championship. That was an incredibly special team with the Winnebago helping lead the charge out of the backfield there.
They got it.
And the Blue Devils
have
continued to be one of the teams that we work with. What an unbelievable run for the OH Report, and we still have so much more to go. I think Jory threw in one more video, if I'm not mistaken, after this. Maybe it's just Cary. But then that same season after this, then we saw Ontario go all the way to the state championship. Hillsdale as well.
Baseball,
had that unbelievable
Final
run
Four.
for baseball. So that's how the story begins for us. We're so blessed and grateful that we've been able to get such a following on social media, to where at first it was just a Facebook page, and then I have my personal YouTube, which we've renamed BS Media Productions, OH Report. So if you go back and look at the earliest videos on there, something called Hamster Dash that I'm never taking down.
Hamster Dash is amazing.
So if you want to see a young Brian like really putting in some work with my daughter Aaliyah, who's now a sophomore in high school, she's like this tall, and we used to do these hamster races. We converted that into one of the biggest high school sports live streaming companies in the entire state of Ohio. So just wanted to share some of our background story here with you guys and let you know that we continue to build a bigger footprint because of you. It started incredibly small. I only ever had the desire to work with Richland County teams and do highlights. That's it. And then it's kind of spawned into this just because of you, the fans. So thank you guys out there for making it 7 years in the making. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you so much. You don't get to see a lot of what really goes into getting the company started. So, sometimes my wife and I will sit and we'll have one of those beverages you talked about, and we'll just kind of like reminisce. Now, I had to take a job as a school teacher right when I left the TV station, just to stay afloat, because it turns out there's just not a whole lot of money when you're first starting something as an entrepreneur. And I had to work probably 75% of the games at first 100% free. So I was getting paid to do 1 or 2 highlights per week. I was doing 6. What did Jory say? I did 250 highlights in my first year of existence. Just me. We had nobody else out there. I had a few people that would go out and film for me when I was already at a game, but I almost never took a night off, and it's paid off. I think OH Report in that first year, we banked, dude, it was like only $8,000, and I was like thrilled to death. I was like, I can't believe people are paying us to go out here and do these highlights. No. But I was a school teacher in the day, and then at night I would throw on my OH Report cape and I'd go out there and I would film and edit these highlights every single day. Almost never took a night off. And now here we are with 28 people I think we paid last year to cover games, and I think we've even got more that are joining the staff now. So brings a little tear to my eye, just honestly, just really thinking about what it is, and because it was never intended. Once we got the ball rolling, I brought on Gian Storm. I had Jory quit her job and start, and then the COVID thing is what really changed the complexion of everything, because it opened it up for Adam to come on board and for Travis to come on board, and we had Brian Harder also join the team, and a couple other people that had worked in local news.
Well, it also changed the complexion of streaming. Because before that, you could only stream regular season football games. Yes, sir. And with that, and then the OHSA saying we're just going to put it on the schools, and then we reach out to some schools for that. And one of the first schools to reach out to us was the Northmore Golden Knights.
Thank you.
But then other schools, like even not this past season, but the season before, Hillsdale reached out to us about football, and we were glad to cover them. We're going to be covering them in the future, softball and baseball. Now that we're able to do those, I mean, the only good thing to come out of COVID was the ability to showcase these athletes.
Yeah, I'm with you. All playoff games used to be on tape delay as well. I do recall that. So that's one thing that I will applaud the OHSAA for, is determining that, you know what, if people are wanting to be able to have the ability to watch these games live instead of going out, let's give them that option, and that's what we have here today. So our first 5 schools, I will forever be indebted to you from 2020. We had the Northmore Golden Knights. The first school that signed on with us was the Crestview Cougars, and I think only because we had G-Man Parlett and then Storm Blunchley on the team. They're like, we'll give you a try. We didn't know what we were doing. You saw some of the graphics at the beginning. Me and Jory did some graduations that summer before.
The spinning box.
We got a spinning block up in the corner. You would have thought that we just split the atom, buddy. We were going crazy. People still go crazy thinking about that here within our building.
Well, remember opening night for football was when we had the thunderstorms and only 2 of our 5 live streams go off. It's my game, and then the Lucas Clear Fork Marathon that ended later than mine. But you guys get back to the studio, not the studio, but the one down the street, and I hit take replay. And apparently you guys were all watching it going nuts because nobody was able to take a replay before, and I hit the replay, and you're like, what just happened?
I almost fell off my chair, buddy. That first night, I tell you what, my game suspended due to lightning. Like you said, half the staff was back. And then that Lucas game finished at after midnight or something. I can't believe that you guys stayed on the air for that thing.
We didn't want to come back. Everybody had to work Saturday morning with us.
But what was so special, and with the amount of followers that we had back then, not very many. I'm not even going to spitball, but I would say like 10,000 total between Facebook and then the YouTube. There was more than 2,000 people watching that game all at once, including us back at the studio. And I was like, I cannot believe this, because the entity that we were at before, we didn't get that kind of viewership.
No.
We weren't even close to getting that many people watching at the same time. And it was like, not only that, we can talk to each other on here. So we knew right away that it was something special.
Well, that first ever live stream we did was the Madison Clear Fork soccer match, and we were looking on our phones at how many? 250. We had 250 people. We had 500 people watching. Oh my gosh! Now, over 2 million people have watched in the last month.
Yeah.
How nuts is that? How crazy is that?
Yeah,
2 million.
And that's just on our live streams.
Yeah.
If you look at our viewership on the MVPs that we post after the fact, you go on our TikTok right now and you look when we put up one of our little video clips. I mean, we're in the millions and millions each year. We'll have to get a tally for 2024, and we'll let you guys know just how many minutes and views and everything that has been watched. But again, thankful to death for all of you guys out there, and our generous sponsors too. So
Absolutely.
At very first, I didn't even know what we were going to be doing. So thank God my wife worked at a place and she was the marketing director. She was like, I can get you a sponsorship for 2 games a week. And like I said, I was getting paid for those, but then I was covering about 4 or 5 other ones. So without people jumping on board and supporting something that they didn't know what it was at first, we never could have got here. And some of those OGs are still with us. Josh Mobley, I definitely want to shout you out in person. Scout Construction Services LLC. He was my second ever sponsor, and he still to this day, I've never asked him to sponsor something that he was like, I think I'm good. He's in every single time.
Yeah.
So it's helped him grow.
No matter what, we do it for you. We do it for your families that can't come to the game, people that are out of state, people that, if you're sick for the night, you can't go in. Even though we've been approached by so many other media entities saying you are ruining streaming sports because you're doing it for free and you're costing money from all of these high schools and blah, blah, blah. No, actually, some schools that we have contracted with, they profit from it too. We make our money just so we can afford to do this, but we mostly do it so you can watch this game, so some of these athletes can maybe get seen by a college that maybe wouldn't be able to during the season, things like that. That's why we do it. We do it for you. More than we do it for us, we do it for you.
Speaking of those college coaches, how many people have you talked to that are connected with college coaches that said that they are big fans of OH.Report, being able to get their scouting report on some of these high school kids? So
shout out Taylor Morgan at Findlay. Her coach, after their district championship loss, come up and said, "Oh yeah, I'm from Clear Fork. I'm a Clear Fork grad. Love what you're doing, but it also helps me scout." I'm like, no, that's why we do it.
The scholarships that these kids could be getting because they're able to watch for free, I think is pretty special too. But all right, enough gushing. Thank you guys for 7 years. We hope to make it many, many more. Love my job on a daily basis. We do it because of you guys, and we're tickled to death that we just have this many games still coming up here for basketball
and
then
wrestling meets. We still got states.
Oh yeah, we're not done just yet. The wrestling season just about is though. But I know a guy that he never saw laces on the mat that he liked. He likes to keep them up. He likes to keep that wrinkle
The only
in his
laces
neck.
he likes other than on the mat is on the Hillsdale football. The voice of the Falcons.
That's right. Zach Truax, the host of The Takedown, he's going to be taking you on a journey, an amazing preview coming up on Thursday night here on the OH Report to tell you guys about all the different state qualifiers that we have, and there are a bunch. In Division 1, you just look at Ashland. They've got Max Ohl and Mason Bauer, Guardian Miller, and then Buda Martin, Mount Vernon as well. We're going to preview them. Caleb Snyder, Maverick Gregory, Jake Taylor, Luke Mullins, Alex Taylor. They're all going to be moving on. You're looking right here at Ontario. Aiden Ohl, Tyler Turnbaugh, he's just a freshman. Gavin Miller, Landon Sowarts. They are all state-bound. For Clear Fork 2, they've got 3 dudes. Blake Schlosser, Anthony Oscar, Colton Wenger. River Valley's got Carson Jenkins. Highland's got Connor Blaney, Brady Byler, Cale Gilmore, Remington Baker. Gallion's got several guys. So does Mansfield Madison. Centerburg got Chris Marshall in there this year. Northmore's got Carton Campbell. East Knox, their only wrestler, Blake Elliott, he's going to be making an appearance at state. And Zach on Thursday night is going to preview all of these wrestlers, tell you what it's looking like, their journey to get into a state championship type of situation. And then he and Jeremy Peoples will be down in Columbus, boots on the ground. They have media access for the entire weekend, and I believe that Zach has called off work for the entire weekend to get down there and take it all in.
You know he would.
Because that's what he does. And these wrestlers that we have, I think that we've got a lot of potential this year.
Yeah.
Gallion specifically, Grady Harding might be the favorite to win that 126-pound class in Division 2, and then Carter Truckovich as well. He's just a sophomore, but that dude, I've been following him since he was 7 years old, going out to the fairgrounds and watching those MMA fights. So I think that there's a lot of potential to have at least 1 or 2. Last year we only had 1 state champion from our backyard, coming from Crestview. I thought it was pretty cool that it was one of the big boys getting the heavyweight. And shout out to Georgia McFarland, our intern. Her boyfriend got the championship, and that's because she's so tiny and then he's so big. And we asked her about it, and she was like, he was not that big when we first started dating. Like he's kind of hit his stride. So we're gonna have that preview for you on Thursday, and then like I said, Zach and Jeremy are gonna be down there all weekend, and then we haven't determined exactly what date. It's gonna be a crazy amount of footage to go through because I know Zach, every match he's gonna say is the most important match. So we're gonna have to like really trim it down, and then probably Wednesday of next week we'll have a whole collection. We're not gonna focus on the entire state, just pretty much those kids I talked about. Anybody that we've worked with from MOAC, N10, KMAC, a couple of those OCC schools, and then Mount Vernon, we're going to really showcase their talent, and we're going to show you their matches, get some interviews, and it's going to be a really cool show. And nobody cares about high school wrestling more than our friend Zach Truax. So I know he's going to do a sensational job. And Jeremy too.
Jeremy's phenomenal.
He knows. He had to fill in late for that Ontario Clear Fork match. And how good did he do? He knew the background of all the kids. Now, granted, he's a coach for Ontario. And
nicknames and stuff was perfect.
Everything. He knew it all. So those two together, we've got one hell of a 1-2 punch for you guys going down to
Only
Columbus.
wrestling show in the state. Got to think.
That we know of.
Yeah,
We've looked everywhere.
Yeah. Another thing it's built the OH Report over the last 7 years. So many shows. The Roundup,
the track and field show.
The track and field show. The soccer locker.
Which we hope to get back, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse. Well,
Come on,
Jesse
we
has
miss
to,
you, brother.
he had the itch to coach and had to go back out there. Also, did I see his middle school basketball team won a Christian state championship?
They did.
So he's doing things. Shout out Jesse Ryder, who can't just, he's always got to be moving around like you. Always got to be doing something.
I get bored pretty easily. So that's why you've gotten all this coverage. live and free, baby, because we just can't seem to sit still. But I've been sitting here for way too long, I think, Travis. I got a great dinner cooking back at the house. VP Jory, who I do want to shout out as well, because for her to take the leap that she did as well, when she had a pretty nice job going at an eye doctor, and I was just like, baby, I don't think I can do this by myself anymore. I have Garrett and Storm, but they're only working a couple of days a week. Do you think you can help me in kind of a full-time capacity? So for her to dive in 2 feet forward and make this a family business, and it really is. While we've got a lot of part-timers, I mean, it's really truly at the end of the day, it's me, you, Jory, Adam, and then like people that are working a few days a week. Now, Jonathan Langdon has been what an unbelievable addition to the team. Josh Banks this year, so crazy. Like I can't.
Bryce Coder.
Bryce, my
Mr.
gosh.
Big Walnut. Like.
It's been really cool to watch each of them blossom in their own way, and where they started and where they are now, they're way better commentators, directors. So I could just keep going, but all of our camera people too, I want to shout out like Brandon Powell for always doing a great job. We've got many though that they've just continued to step up and are always willing to work and wanting to work. And it's really cool that I get to give them the opportunity and get to give them a little bit of cheese at the end of the week each week for doing a job well done. So hopefully that's what we've done for the last 7 years. We're wishing us 7 more here on the OH Report. We'll see you this week. Lots of live streams coming up. The takedown on Thursday. Hopefully we get a team into the state championship for the girls in Big Walnut if they can overcome the #1 seed. And then we just might have a few marching on to the Final Four in boys basketball. But for now, for tonight, we appreciate you for 7 years. Enjoy your Monday. We'll see you all the rest of the week.